in the place that I'm in, everything is unknown. And so these physical activities literally just help strengthen these courage muscles that I feel like I use all the time.
Welcome to the Active Travel Adventures podcast. I'm your host, Kit Parks, and my mission is to bring you epic but doable adventures from around the world. If you're like me, you don't want to live an ordinary life. You want to live a kick-ass life. And one way to do so is to add adventure travel to your life. I find adventure travel brings out the best in me. It challenges me, it encourages me, it enlightens me, and it inspires me to lead a bigger life. On this program, you'll learn about amazing adventures from around the world, plus get the tools and information you need so you can do these adventures with confidence. You'll come home feeling empowered and with amazing memories and stories that you can relive forever. And don't worry, the bar is such that my relatively fit 58-year-old body, particularly with some training, can do these adventures, and you can too. So let's get started with today's adventure. Today we're heading to the strikingly beautiful province of Quebec in Canada. If you like culture, amazing landscapes, and adventure opportunities of all kinds, this is an adventure for you. While I've been to Quebec, I did not have the opportunity to do some of the adventures our guest today is going to be talking to us about. But in that whole region, it's an adventurer's paradise. There are hundreds of miles of trails, including 8 long-distance trails that go from easy, intermediate, all the way up to very difficult. They have a national trail that's over 1,000 kilometers, and there's about 200 trails just in the national parks in that area. If you're not into hiking, you can also cycle. They are big bikers up there, and there are literally hundreds and hundreds of miles. In fact, it's the largest network of biking paths in North America, over 5,000 kilometers worth. You can rent bikes up there, so if you're flying in, don't want to bring your bike, it's easy to rent a bike both in the city or to rent one in the parks. You could do regular road cycling or path cycling, or there's also mountain biking opportunities as well. In addition to hiking and cycling, there's also paddling opportunities. If you love to kayak, you can kayak in the fjords or on the St. Lawrence River, which runs right through Quebec City. There's also some whitewater rafting opportunities. In addition to that, the Via Ferrata, which we first came across when we went to the Dolomites, there are 8 Via Ferratas, and this is where you're harnessed and so perfectly safe, but you're climbing up a rock face. So for those that need a little bit of an adrenaline rush, that's for you as well. And if that's not enough for you, there's also horseback riding opportunities, and if you go in the winter, there's winter sports galore. Our guest today is one of my favorite bloggers and podcasters, and I'm thrilled to have her on the show. She's a big fan of Quebec, and with that, let's get started. Can you start, please, by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, of course. My name is Jackie Nurse, and I started traveling when I was like 18. I went and studied abroad in Costa Rica and just kind of used language to continue leading me all over the world, studying abroad and traveling and seeing different places. And it just kind of kickstarted this lifestyle for me that has led to where I am now, which, I'm a full-time, actually, I struggle with this label. I started as a blogger and podcaster, and now I'm leading my own trips, and I do lots of brand ambassador work. And so I kind of do a lot of different things, but I'm a full-time professional traveler. I guess we could put it like that.
Hopefully in a year or two, I'll be able to follow in your coattails. But one thing I like about, and one reason I follow you, Jackie, is because you do a lot of adventure travel. What is it about adventure travel that appeals to you?
I love that question. I think I got to a point in my travels where, when you start traveling, I feel like so many people want to see Rome and Paris, and there's nothing wrong with that. That was me too, and I'm like seeing all these places and covering so much ground. And I got to a point where, I didn't even pack running shoes in my luggage. And I'm sitting in a city, like, wait a second, who am I? What is this? What am I doing? This isn't, it's like travel. That's not enough for me. That's not really who I am deep down. I'm so not a city person at all. And so what I love about adventure travel is it gets me into my element. I'm from the mountains. I need the mountains. I love nature. And I feel like adventure travel takes me to those places where A, I can connect with nature, B, I can push myself, and that's where I feel the most personal growth coming. And that's sort of what I love about travel is the growth side of it. I mean, there's so much to learn about the world, about yourself. And I really think that adventure travel specifically expedites and balances all of that for me.
And today we're going to be talking about doing adventures in Quebec City and the Quebec area. Can you give us a little brief overview of Quebec City and then a little bit about the countryside around it?
Yeah, I mean, I've been to Quebec City a couple of times now, and it fascinates me because it's one of those places where you just feel transported. I mean, it's literally you can drive your own car there because it's right over the border. But when you're there, it feels like you're in Europe. Like it feels like a different country completely. And I love that about it. It's very, very, very old. 400 years. So Quebec City just celebrated 400 years, which is crazy because last summer, I believe, Canada celebrated 150. And so Quebec City is way older than even the country. And so it just has so much culture and tradition. It used to be, it's like, I think it's the only walled city in North America. And so it's very rich in history. And the city itself is a beautiful place to be. It's right on the St. Lawrence. There are forts and, I mean, boats and all these things that you can do there. And then the surrounding area is, once you start going north of Quebec City, it becomes very mountainous. There are fjords. I mean, you can do like whale watching. Like it's so incredible because I just feel like you wouldn't expect it. I don't know why I think that, but it just seems like unexpected adventure, beauty, all the things like right over the border, right there in Quebec. It's just kind of mind blowing. And so that's what has kept me coming back the last couple of years.
And you almost feel like you're in a little France there too, because they speak French there, don't they?
Yep. It's the only province in Canada whose sole official language is French. So, I mean, I have run into places like in small town Quebec, people do not speak English. And it kind of blows my mind that, these people are North Americans. They're living here in North America with the rest of us, and they do not speak English. They cannot take your order in English. Like it just doesn't happen. It's crazy, but it's true. They're very, very proud. They're very, very proud of their history and their tradition, and they will stick to that. And so I guess it makes sense that some of them aren't learning the language. I don't know.
And I see that just outside of Quebec City, you've got several national parks. Can you tell us a little bit about those and in particular about the hiking and what are the kinds of things that you'll see there?
Yeah, I would recommend Charlevoix for hiking. So the regions north of Quebec City, there are two that are just directly north. One's called Sagueney, Lac Saint Jean, and the other one's called Charlevoix. I've traveled extensively within both of them, and they are both incredible for different reasons. The hiking in Charlevoix is amazing. There's a huge national park there. Actually, there are a couple of national parks right there that you can get up very quickly, like 3,000 feet elevation gain in like a mile or two, just like, it's like straight up and you're looking down to these rivers. And I mean, it's just impressive mountain landscape right north of just the flatlands, like, I mean, Quebec City is, I mean, I guess it's hilly, but it's relatively flat. And then it's just like, boom, mountains. And so if you like mountains, get up into those national parks in Charlevoix. I'm not going to try and pronounce them for you. I suppose I could.
Listeners are used to me mangling virtually every language.
Yeah, and I actually did I haven't been back to Quebec since then, but I did just go to France and study some French. So, but the accent is so different. It's pretty funny. It's so different. But yeah, if you go like north of Malbaie in Charlevoix, you'll find some good stuff up there. And it's not just hiking. You can go kayaking and do like river cruises and camping and canoeing, and there's skiing up there. It's really kind of endless. You can do all the things.
I'll post your blog post on the show notes and on the website. And as I recall, you were recommending that people rent a car. Is that still the case?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's not, I mean, it's not well connected for public transportation because these little towns are just dotted all throughout the countryside and through the mountains, and you've got to be able to get there. I mean, there are some things you can do with public transportation, but there's so much more you can do if you have your own car. I've rented a car in Quebec before, and it was super easy and not expensive. I think I spent $100 for 4 days. Everything was really straightforward. It was through Hertz. They let me drive it over the border even because I dipped into the United States and back and had no problems at all. So if you don't bring your own vehicle there, if you fly there, just rent a car. I mean, I think I've rented a car twice there through Hertz, and it's absolutely the way to go for sure. There's so much to see in the back country. You know, you can't get there unless you have a vehicle.
Do you need four-wheel drive or is a regular car okay?
I think it depends on the season. The roads are really good, but I think it would depend on, if you go there in the middle of winter, it's very cold and it does snow a lot, and so if you feel more comfortable, four-wheel drive, but you don't necessarily need it, like you could take, I think both times that I rented, they were just little things, little Chevy cars, but it was also both times during the summer. But yeah, we didn't go like four-wheeling or anything. Just the roads are. It has really good infrastructure.
Since I don't like the cold, I generally just cover spring, summer, and fall places. However, you have lots of winter activities up there as well, correct?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, skiing, all the skiing, snowmobiling, snowshoeing, all of that. And there are some really cool seasonal places that really only open in the winter that I have yet to explore the winter there, but I would love to. I think it's supposed to be really beautiful. And there's a place that I stayed once it's a bunch of yurts, and they're right up by this little ski area. And I just imagine it in the wintertime because there's a spa next door and a ski area next door. And I feel like that would be such a cool adventure to go and sleep in. They're nice yurts, like fireplace, and go skiing and hit the spa. And you'd be able to do that without four-wheel drive too.
Now, are there visitor centers up there and guides and all that? Or is this something that they should be doing their research ahead of time before they head up there?
I think it'd be best if you looked in advance just because everything is kind of spread out. I mean, you could hit like the tourism office when you get up to Quebec City or even to Sagueney. But they do a really good job of keeping everything online, up to date. And so if you just kind of, if you look at quebecregion.com, you can find everything you need because it's kind of the umbrella of all the tourism up there, Quebec region.
I'll put those links in the show notes and on the website. And let's talk a minute about kayaking. You kayaked in the national park. I'm going to mangle this. Du fjord de Sagueney. Did I say that even remotely close?
Yeah, that's a really cool experience because you kayak in the fjord. And so it also depends on the weather. Like the day that we went actually was kind of rainy and it doesn't really bother you. You're just kind of out there. I mean, you don't want it to be too windy. Kayaking in the fjord, it was really cool because the water was black because of where the salt water and the fresh water hit each other. And like, I don't know, it was totally black underneath us. It was so surreal. We saw a couple sea lions out there, but you can see whales and dolphins from like straight from your kayak if you hit it right. Kayaking, that park also has a really, I would say, scary, intimidating, I'll put it like that, Via Ferrata. And so if you want some adventure, that's one of the parks you should check out. There's a Via Ferrata that has a bridge that it's way up there and you're just kind of walking like over the fjord and it's very exposed. So if you want like a really cool Via Ferrata on a fjord, that's your park.
Longtime listeners will know what a Via Ferrata is from when we covered that in episode 21 on the Dolomites. But for those that aren't familiar with that, could you explain what is a Via Ferrata?
Yeah, literally in Italian, it means an iron way, meaning it's like a hiking climbing route built with iron. So rebar and cables that kind of guides you up along a certain route on generally some sort of cliff or mountainside. So it's perfectly safe because you're harnessed in, you're using carabiners to clip in, clip out, like keep going, climbing, I've done a few of them, 2 in Quebec and 1 in Kosovo. And they are certainly a rush if you are afraid of heights like I am, but I do it because I know that I'm safe and it's very much an adventure. The one that I just mentioned, I have not done because I think I don't know, I need to harness some more courage before I do that one. It's kind of big and exposed, but.
And they have various difficulty ratings. As I recall, your Kosovo Via Ferrata was much more difficult than the Quebec one. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Every route is different. I mean, just like a hiking trail, just like a mountain, no one is the same as the next one over. And so that's why if you do one and you think it's easy, the next one could be hard. Or if you do one and it's hard, try again because the next one might be better. I mean, they're so different. It really depends on where you are physically on the mountain.
And the way I understood it, you use the Via Ferrata as a way to conquer your fear of heights?
Conquer is a strong word. But yeah, I do it because it challenges me. And I mean, that's kind of going back to what I was saying about adventure travel. I mean, that is where you grow. The hard times, that is where you grow. And so that is why these Via Ferratas have this temptation to me, is because I know it'll scare me and I know I will get through it. And I know it will be somehow it will be a good experience for me, a positive experience for me, because I will be, challenging myself and forcing myself to get through something that I could easily be like, oh no, I don't feel like trying that, and instead it's like, here's an opportunity to test your limits. And there you go. You're safe. So it's okay.
Then are you able to use that feeling of empowerment in your everyday life?
Oh, that's what it's all about. Absolutely. I feel like I do things all the time that scare me. I mean, as an entrepreneur, as a trip leader, as in the place that I'm in, everything is unknown. And so these physical activities literally just help strengthen these courage muscles that I feel like I use all the time.
I love that, a courage muscle. I refer to it as building your grit bone. In addition to the hiking and the kayaking, you can also do a lot of cycling up there. Can you talk a little bit about that, please?
The biking is so cool. They have put so much work into bike trails in Quebec. They have what they call the Blueberry Trail. That's the English word. But they just, I can't remember how many, but it was like hundreds of miles of biking that you could do just in a small region. And it's really easy to rent bikes up there. There are bike rental places all over because it's very popular. And so if you are into cycling at any kind of level, that's definitely something you should look into. I've been on the Blueberry Trail, like out in the countryside where, we stopped at farmhouses to try some cheese curds, and we stopped at breweries to try the local brews. And I've also been on a more established track that goes straight from Quebec City up to Montmorency Falls, which is a really popular park right outside of Quebec City with a big, huge waterfall. And it's only 11 kilometers to bike that. And so that's a cool day trip to go to ride out there, maybe do the zip line or do a little hike, or even there's a couple Via Ferratas out there, have lunch, check out the falls, ride back to town. That would be a really great day trip.
That sounds perfect. I want to backtrack to something you said that you just mentioned about the cheese curds. Isn't that one of their national dishes? I know I'll totally mispronounce that, so I'll let you go ahead and talk about it.
Oh, well, I was just talking about cheese curds specifically, but I think you're talking about poutine. Yeah, the poutine in Quebec. I mean, it originated in Quebec. So if you don't know what poutine is, it's essentially French fries and gravy and cheese curds, but that doesn't seem to do it justice. It's like mouth-wateringly, gut-bombingly, amazingly, indulgently delicious.
Now, is that poutine, is it a meal or is it the way we would treat French fries as a side dish?
It's a meal. In most cases, I mean, you could have it as a side if it's small, but in a lot of cases, you can order a poutine as a meal. And so they have different styles of it. I mean, you can go to a poutine restaurant or cafe that has, you can get, it comes with vegetables in it or meat in it or bacon, something that's added to it. So it's not just the same every time. And so there are so many different combinations of different types of poutine that you can get. And I mean, it originated there. They know how to do it best. Eat all the poutine when you're in Quebec. Just plan on it. It's amazing.
I'm definitely going to have to try that. I put together a travel planner that corresponds with each episode that I do, and I try to offer folks not just the self-planning itinerary and the information they need to do that, but I also try to give them a trusted tour company option so that if they don't want to go through the hassle of planning it themselves, they can just push a button of a company that I recommend. And it doesn't sound like there's a good resource for that currently in the Quebec area. So with that in mind, what recommendations would you have for people that are planning this trip in addition to the link that you gave us earlier?
That's a good question. I would recommend doing kind of a big loop on your own, obviously. Start in Quebec City. Haven't talked about Montreal at all, and I just won't because we're just going to stick with the north here. But I would say it would be really nice to do a big loop. If you start in Quebec City, definitely hit Sagueney, hit the fjords. There's a lot to do right around Sagueney. And then also, and you could do that on the way up or on the way back. But if you go along the river through Charlevoix, you could do like one big circle with your own vehicle. I would also recommend bringing camp gear if you want to do that because it's so outdoorsy. There's plenty of places to camp, and it would keep the accommodations, the pricing down, although it's not that expensive up there. And you can find some really unique places to stay. So it's kind of just up to you where you want to sleep at night. But I would say move along, like make a consistent road trip out of it. Instead of staying based, for example, in Quebec City, you could do that, but it would just mean a lot of driving if you're really going to get out to these places.
Let's try to break that down a little further. So we would come up with a recommendation of like how many days in Quebec, how many days here and there, so that we kind of give people an idea of what they can do in, say, a week to 10 days.
I think you could do it in a week because really the area, like for example, from Quebec City up to Saguenay, I think it's about a 2.5 hour drive. So it's not far, and so you can cover a lot of area in a short time. So I would say if you do a day in Quebec City proper, then you can even do like a walking tour of the old city. You could do a boat tour just down in the river there. You can get some good poutine, like check out the city. You need to do that. There are markets and stores and really good restaurants and stuff. So it's worth spending a day in the city itself. If you're going to spend another day, that's when I would recommend going up to the Montmorency Falls, even taking the bikes up there if you wanted to. And then from there, head out. And the little spots along the way, like in Charlevoix, you could spend 3 different nights in 3 different places. And I mean, during the days, you could do hiking, kayaking, you could do like beehive experiences or fishing or whale watching, all of these sort of activities. And then you could cut in. There's a ghost village in there where there used to be a lot of paper mills in Quebec. And so there's a lot of history in paper mills. So you see a lot of these on the rivers, and there are some that have been converted into hotels where you can go stay. And so, I mean, there's like little gems all along the way. So you could just pick a different spot to sleep each night with different activities and then head over to Saguenay and do a couple of days there. So I would say probably, 2 days in Quebec City and then 3 throughout Charlevoix and a couple in Saguenay on the way back.
Perfect. Now, is there anything else about Quebec or the province that we should know about before we move on?
There is, and I will mention one thing. If you like music, Quebec has been doing a summer festival. They just celebrated 50 years doing this last summer. And it's a really cool opportunity to see a whole bunch of big name bands. And it's not expensive because it's like 11 nights of music or something. And there are stages all over the city. So that is a really fun time to be in the city because it's like a big festival, a giant party. You can still find quiet hotels if you want to. But if you like music, that's a really good time to go because you could hit one of your, a great band coming in and out of Quebec City. And so the summer festival, that's one of their longest standing traditions. And that's probably maybe the last thing I would mention, just if that piques your fancy, to hit the summer festival while you're there. It's in the middle of July. It's a beautiful time to be there.
That sounds wonderful. I love how this area has such a huge diversity of different activities that you can do, so you can customize your trip to exactly what you'd like to do. And they're all fairly close to each other, so you don't spend a tremendous amount of time traveling. Plus, I like that it's a lot more economical than a lot of adventure trips can be. After talking to you, Jackie, I'm definitely moving this up higher on my bucket list. Jackie, you give out tons of great information and content on your blogs and your podcasts. You also do some tours. You're a really busy woman. Can you tell us a little bit about how people could reach out to you and to follow along on your adventures?
Yeah, definitely. So the first blog that I started is called thebudgetmindtraveler.com. And that one is designed to be a practical guide. So most of the things you'll find on there are really like how-tos, what to pack, how to use your phone overseas, the things that are like, I would say, super practically helpful. And there's a community there too on Facebook, the Budget Minded Traveler community, where everybody can come together and sort of ask those questions that will help them get there sooner, like where do you guys stay in Pamplona or whatever. I mean, the community is really great for that. The podcast is right now by the same name, The Budget Minded Traveler. We're almost to 100 episodes. And yeah, you'll find the same sort of content on there. Just a lot of guest interviews, people telling their stories about travel, relating to my listeners. I mean, they're always like, how did you do it? What did you spend? Like, how can other people do this too? And so I know people find a lot of inspiration in that. And then Traveling Jackie is a little bit of a turn in the road because I had a turn in my road a few years ago and I needed something different outside of the realm of budget travel to share my creativity. And so I started Traveling Jackie, which is an adventure travel / kind of personal lifestyle blog. And it's basically my home online for just anything that I want to say and need a platform to say it. And that is where I have also started leading trips for my readers and listeners. And that is just magic. It is my absolute new favorite thing in the world is leading group trips with my people. It's what I'm kind of moving towards going forward. So yeah, so I have some guest contributors on the Budget Minded Traveler, and we kind of keep the social media rolling for like a community style, and then Traveling Jackie is more like, that's my home, that's me. So if you want to find me on Instagram, you can find me at Traveling Jackie, and that's just one L. I know we're all Americans here, but I always say that because a lot of people are outside of the United States and they spell it with two L's. So the Budget Minded Traveler and Traveling Jackie, both with one L.
And I'll put all of her links on the show notes and on the website. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with our listeners?
The only thing that I will add, and it's because this is the thing that my guests always add, at the end of our talks, and that is just go and don't be afraid. Like I don't think you're gonna regret choosing to travel solo. You're going to learn something. That's time well spent. Getting out and seeing the world, going to Quebec, any of these things, these are adventures. This is our one life. We get one shot, so go do it. I think you'll find that you're much more resourceful than you realize. And then you're going to be the one with a story to tell afterwards. So I encourage you to just try it, test yourself, get out there. Make it happen.
When Jackie is mentioning about solo there, when I was interviewing her about her Quebec adventures, I also, because she's a big solo traveler, and that's actually next episode is on solo travel, I asked her a few questions. That ended up being quite an extensive part of the interview as well. So instead of adding it to Quebec, because if you're looking for Quebec, you may not be looking at solo travel, I'm actually going to put that segment in our next episode on solo travel. Don't forget that there's lots of photos and videos of this adventure at activetraveladventures.com. Plus, there's more detailed information there as well. You can download the free corresponding travel planner on the website, or you can get it automatically for free in my once-a-month email. Just sign up for it on the website or email me at kit@activetraveladventures.com. The free travel planners give you all the links that you need in order to plan your adventure. I'll be back in 2 weeks with another exciting adventure. Until then, this is Kit Parks. Adventure on!